Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Hernandez, and I work for FBS, the creators of Flexmls, and today we are going to do a class on statistics and production in Flexmls. There are a lot of ways to pull numbers in Flexmls. I'll show you some of the most common and user-friendly ways that are available. Let's go ahead and take a look at the topics we'll cover today. We're going to look at three different areas, three different reports really. My production, give me a nice snapshot of my market activity, active, pending, sold over the past X amount of days or years. We'll look at the market summary report, as well as a little bit at the My Market report. Now, just from my perspective, the market summary report, we'll spend a little bit more time on this one. I think it's the easiest to use. And I'll show you that. You'll see it's easiest to use and understand when looking at the numbers here. So I'm going to come onto my screen and shrink this down just a little bit. And let's start off with my production. So I'm going to show you three different ways to get to my production. Now, this won't be true production stats. But I'm going to look at search results. I'm just going to find myself or my office or an office member in the search, and then look at the compare tab. And it'll give us a snapshot of current listings over a set period of time. And I'll also show you how to save that as a favorite search. So anytime you want to run that search and just look at all of your listings since the first of the year or the first of last year or whatever time period we set, we can do that from a search. Then we'll look at, there's an option under statistics in your menu called My Production, and that pulls year-to-date activity. It's set to pull year-to-date, and you cannot change that. So this is a great report, but depending on the time of the year that you pull it, it may be virtually empty. Right now, when you're pulling it in January, year-to-date activity is usually pretty minimal compared to what it'll look like in August. And then summary statistics. We'll take a look at running this report. It'll contain some of the same information as my production. The format's not quite as nice, but it is something that allows you to set the specific dates to run that information. So let's begin in search results. I'm going to go over into Flexmls and just verify that I'm on my training account right now. And we will run I'm going to run a search for a specific office. So I would recommend you can do this with your office or you can do it for yourself. And I'm just going to use one of the default search templates. Now, if I'm looking at residential, it's only going to pull residential activity. So I may come to this template selection and do a cross-property search if I'd like to include all property types. So not limited to just residential. I'm just creating this search to look at my active, pending, and sold listings. So I'm going to change to cross-property search. And then I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the template. And I'm going to specify myself as the listing or selling member. Now, I actually won't do that because I'm on a training account, so I don't have any listings in the system. It would pull up 0 for my record. So instead, I'm going to do this with one of the top producing offices here that I looked up on a stat report earlier today. But you'll do the same thing, whether it's a member or an office, you can do the same thing from the quick search. Just open it up, type in the name of what you're looking for. So you would type in your name under listing selling member, or in this case, I'm going to look at Keller Williams Realty in Portland. And I'll just click on find. It'll pull this up. You'll see that short code next to it, so you'll be able to identify quickly, especially if you're in office right here. And then I want to say, do I want to show listings where Keller Williams Realty, or if I was selecting myself as the listing selling member, is the listing member or the selling member, or in this case, listing office, selling office, and I can do both. It's either listing or selling. And I can come here and say, well, let's also include where it's the co-listing office and co-selling office. Now, if you look at my map, it's currently showing 312 listings out here, but it's only active listings. So after I select that, I am just going to scroll back up to the top, and you could do the status first, but I like to add the office on here first. And now I'm going to just select the statuses that I want to include. So I've already got my active statuses and my active contingent statuses with these active, kick out, pending, continue to show, and so forth. But let's look at pending. And this will show anything that's currently pending with the pending date. And you'll see that goes back to 1/27 of 2020. So if I wanted this to only run back through a specific date, I can always choose the specific date here. Maybe I want it to go December 1st of 2020 for that pending date. Same thing when I select closed. Now, when I'm selecting these multiple statuses, I'm also holding down my control key. If you try to select a status, every time you select one, it only shows one at a time. So hold down your control key, command if you're a Mac user, and just make the selections. We'll do pending and closed, and I'll do the same here. I'll go 12-01 2020. So if I were to save this search, it is always going to pull my active listings, anything that's currently active, currently pending, or currently closed. And the pending dates are going to go back to whatever date I've selected here, December 1st, 2020. So let's take a look at the search results here. I'm just going to go to the list, start looking at those results. And you'll see I have 948 listings. As I'm looking at those listings, I can sort. Let's just sort by status, ascending order. And so now I've got those sorted. Where I like to compare these listings and get a quick snapshot is on the Compare tab. So just click on the Compare tab where my mouse is hovering. It's toward the far right of these different views of listings. And the default view compares whatever listing is highlighted, for example, TBD Temple Road. If I select that one, it compares it with everything else inside the search, which isn't necessarily useful information to me depending on what I want. I just want a breakdown of these 948 listings, how many active, pending, and sold. So on my Compare tab, on Comparison Statistics, that's where it starts. Click to the left of that where my mouse is hovering, Search Statistics. And that will break the search down. It takes just a little bit of time for that to compose, but it's going to break my listings down by active, pending, and sold search results. If I was looking, this is average, median, high, and low statistics become extremely useful when I'm looking at residential listings because it includes fields like bedrooms, bathrooms. So it breaks that down for me, 310 active, 187 pending, 449 closed, and then other statuses, of course. And then I see my statistics here, sold price, that's only calculating, of course, the sold listings in there. The active listings don't have that. List price per square foot, sold price per square foot, sale to list price ratio, average is actually a little bit over. It's been a good few months here. Sale to original list price ratio, almost 99%, 88 days on market on average. And then it breaks down market information here as well. So our days on market to our sale to list price ratio, 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, 91 to 100. And so it gives us this information. Of course, it puts it nice in a table for us, and then it charts it out for us here as well. So it just recreates that right beneath that in the chart. The nice thing about this, maybe I'm putting together a presentation about myself, my sales over the past year. There is a print option at the top of this screen. So in the upper right, I can come here, go to print this, or I of course can select my printer or save it as a PDF, so I could include that with a presentation and email that out as well. So again, how I got here is I just started a search, and since I wanted to include all property types, I selected the cross-property search template. I selected the statuses I wanted to include, the dates, and then of course you would do it for listing selling member as yourself, or for the office I selected and just demonstrated an office here to demonstrate that. Now, one other thing that we could do here, or a couple other things we could do with this. If I want to be able to run this search at any time, and maybe I just want to then have it always search back and pull activity for the last 3 months, so for the last quarter. On these off-market dates, pending date, so it'll show me pending listings that have a pending date within whatever range. Where my mouse is hovering, it's a forward-backward arrow. If you click on that, I can go days back, months back, or years back. So I'm going to click on days back, and then we'll just click 3 months back. So it'll pull currently pending listings with a pending date in the past 3 months. Same thing for closed. So now that I've made that change, I am going to save this search so I can use it anytime. So I can quickly just pull it up whenever I'd like. I'll click on save, and I'll click on save search. Now I'm not creating this for a contact or anything like that, so I can just describe the search as whatever I would like. I'll call it Keller Williams Realty in Portland, 3 months. And before I click on save, I'm going to click to mark this as a favorite. So what this will do is it'll stay in my favorites for searches. So it's right at the top as you're saving the search, mark as favorite, just a check mark, and then click save. So where can I find those favorite searches? If I go to my menu and I go to the search column on the right at the bottom, saved searches, this page has 3 columns of information: all searches, favorite searches, and draft searches. Drafts, of course, searches you ran but did not save. So if I go to my favorites, I am going to see that search right here. So gives me quick access to it. So if I run this next month, it'll pull the past 3 months worth of, it'll look back 3 months rather for our closed and pending listings, for those closed and pending dates on those listings. Now, this isn't really a statistical analysis. This is just kind of looking at a snapshot of what we currently have. One other place where you can access those favorites, though, before I move on from here and we go into my production under statistics, is on my dashboard. I have a saved searches gadget, and I can click on the settings, the 3 dots in the upper right corner of the gadget, scroll down to settings, and then I can say, by default, it shows all searches. Check this radial button that says only my favorite searches, and then click on save. And now this gadget will only display my favorite searches. So whenever I log into Flexmls, I have this one-click access to go to that search. It'll automatically pull up the search results here. And of course, if I wanted to change what I'm looking for, I can click on Edit Search, and I could make changes here as well. So that's just using the quick search and the compare tab to pull up kind of a snapshot of what's currently going on for your listings. There is a menu item. If I go to menu and I scroll down, I see this statistics section, my production. Now I'll show it on this training account and it's going to be empty. So you'll see my production, all zeros right here. I'm going to change users, and I'm going to use as a user in a different MLS because I don't want to single out any specific users in main. So I'll show you this. It'll be in an entirely different MLS, but it works the exact same. But I just want to pull up some actual numbers. So I'm just changing users to an active user in the Fargo Moorhead MLS. So the fields here are going to look a little bit different than your fields that you would see. But that's okay, because what we're interested in doing is looking at the menu and coming down to our statistics section and going to the My Production option. With the My Production option, there are two views, a quick view right up at the top left and a member year-to-date report. Now the quick view gives this year-to-date and last year-to-date. So looking at this record, this year total sold 0. Last year at this point in time, 1. And it's including activity. If you transferred offices last year, this will automatically include activity from your prior office as well, so you don't have to worry if you've transferred. And it just compares this year to last year, units this year to last year, percentage, and then volume and that percentage compared to last year. It gives that information graphically beneath as well as kind of a summary of current status, active 21, pended, where you're the listing member, pended where somebody else would be the listing member, total pended, total withdrawn here, and volume here as well. Now, like I said, the drawback with this report is it's year to date. So it's January 27th today when I'm presenting this, and most people aren't going to have a ton of year-to-date activity yet. So it always looks, of course, year-to-date report is going to look a little scant at the beginning of the year compared to once you get halfway through or further. So I can come here to pull that information. The year-to-date version, member year-to-date report, gives you a better breakdown here where active listings, units, sides where I'm the listing member, selling member, volume, median, average days on market, average price change, average percentage price change, number of extended listings, number back on market. So kind of this current snapshot at the top. And then underneath that, we're going to see new listings year to date, last year to date, percentage of change, and how it compares to the office and MLS as a whole. Sold listings, listed, sold, listed only, sold only, year to date, last year to date, percentage of change. Same thing, pended listings, withdrawn, canceled listings. It breaks that down in pretty good detail. So I really like the detail that this report provides, as well as being able to give you access, quick snapshot year to date, compare last year to date. But of course, like I said, the limitation with this is that it is always year to date. There's no place for me to say, well, I just want to run this for the past 6 months rather than year to date. So we'll take a look at what we can do and look at some of these same numbers, but select our time frame. The nice part about this is it's printable, it's formatted for me already. So I can come here, I can print this. Just going to close that. I could export that data in the table, and then I could import that into my own Excel program or something like that. Maybe you like working with spreadsheets. You can always use the advanced to put that in a spreadsheet and format it any way you'd like as well. So again, we came here through menu, and I went to statistics under production. My production is how we got here. There is a statistical report that will give some of the same information, but allow us to choose specific time frames. So I like to highlight this as well when discussing production. So I'm going to go to my menu. I'll scroll down to that statistics section. And there is a section here called inventory and production. This gives me a lot of report options. So I'll click inventory and production. And your available searches should look similar to what I see here. You may have some slightly different ones, but I'm really only going to focus on one today, and that's the summary statistics. So I'm going to click summary statistics, and this allows me to define what I'm going to see in my summary statistics here. Property types to include. So maybe I only want to do residential and single family. Now I'm in a record outside of the main MLS here, so you might see some slightly different fields, but I really wanted to just focus here on at the bottom of this statistic type. I'm going to zoom in on my screen just a little bit, make that easier to see. I'm running this as a member. I can run this for myself. I can run it for the MLS, compare it to the MLS. An option, show my activity from prior offices. So like I said, if I was in another office at one point during the time frame that I'm about to search and I transferred to a new office, check that to make sure that prior office activity, those listings I sold while in a different office, are included. And then I can set my time frame down here. So you'll see it going back, it defaults going back 30 days, 12/27/2020. But maybe I just want to run this. Let's go January 1st, 2020 through December 31st of 2020. So I can set whatever time frame I want. And then I click on next. So I've made sure to check show activity from prior offices, set your time frame, click next. You're going to see yourself here as selectable, so just click use this member. And then it's going to break down and give us the nice summary report. Now this is not formatted quite as nicely as the report that we were just looking at, but it does have the print option. And it gives me the search statistics that we use. I did residential, subtype, single family, time frame, tells me what we're including, sold during that time frame, volume, median and average list price, days on market, total sold volume, median sold price, average sold price, sale to list price, sale to original list price ratio. And it breaks that down for me. Sold listings, listing and selling member, 1. Co-broker, new, pending, withdrawn, canceled, expired, back on market, extended. How many were active during that range? How many are currently active? So you'll see over that time span, I had 22 active listings. Currently, there's 1 active listing. So nice, easy way to get here from summary statistics. And again, how did I get here? I went to my menu. I went down, I found statistics, whoops, menu. I clicked off that screen for a moment. I'm zoomed in on my screen. It's getting hard for me to come in here. Inventory and production. Under statistics, inventory and production is where I went. And from there, I just used the summary statistics report. So those are 3 different ways to start looking at your listings and your listing activity. Again, from the search results using the compare tab, the my production report, which is always year to date, and summary statistics where you can define the set period of time that you're looking at. So those are some production options for you to use. One other thing that I'll note here is although there is a print option, you'll see there's no export option. So there's no option here where I can export this and use it in my own spreadsheet. You can, however, just highlight. I'm going to right click to copy, and you can paste that information into Excel or something. So if you want to put it in your own spreadsheet, that's how you would move that information. Just highlight, copy, and then paste it into that document, and it will break apart into the cells as you paste that in. So even though you don't see an export option, you can highlight, copy, and paste into a spreadsheet if you like working in Excel or something like that. Now, our second report that I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on is going to be our market summary report. So this allows us to search by a single location and a single property type. I'll show you how you can understand how it's making the calculations and how to save favorite locations to make it, since it only looks at one location at a time, this is looking at and saving favorite locations can come in handy. We can also create a custom dashboard with some of the gadgets that show the same information on the market summary report. So let's take a look at this, and I'm going to go back into main right now because this is not singling out a specific user. This is just pulling in some statistics as we look for specific locations and things like that. So I'm going to go to menu, and I'm going to come down here just to highlight a few of the things that we talked about. We talked about earlier, the first thing we talked about was my production. I'm going to mark that as a favorite. I'm just going to pin that up here so you can keep it in mind of the things that we've talked about. And then I'm going to go to market summary. This is what we'll talk about now. I'll click the star just to pin it to my favorites. So I have one-click access to this market summary report. When I go to the market summary report, if you've never been here before, few things on how it works. It'll show information for the last completed month. We're still in January, so it's not pulling January statistics yet. It's looking through December of 2020. And if you have not come here before, right now, this tells me the last time I ran it for South Portland residential. If you've never been here before, it'll be looking and pulling statistics from the entire MLS. So everything throughout the entire state will be included. So you'll want to probably narrow that down because statewide information, unless you're specifically looking for that, is maybe not so helpful. Maybe you're looking for a very specific location, zip code, city, or something like that. I'll show you how to zoom that in on a specific location. But before we do that, let's just take a quick look at what this is displaying. So I see these different graphs up at the top, and then it breaks down into summary statistics. And like I said, it's going through the last closed month, December of 2020. It'll compare that to December of 19 and show our percentage of change, year-to-date stats on there as well. It also breaks down the information by status: sold listings, pending listings, active listings, and new listings. And each of these is broken down by these price points. Sometimes when I'm teaching a class, people say, you know, these price points aren't really great for the market location that I'm looking in right now. There's no way to customize these price points. It can be changed, but only at the MLS level. So the MLS would have to decide to change the price points that display here. So as an agent, I can't come in and change these price points. But it does give me nice, quick access to look at and see in this range, 200 to 249.99. I can see 8 this month. 250 to 299, 8. And compare that to last year, 8, 4, 3, 9 in the range of 300 to 350. So I can see right here is kind of where most of the action is happening at. Same thing with my pending listings, just to give you those price point comparisons. So let's come back up now and look at a few of these charts and graphs that are displaying. Number of listings. You'll see it's giving me active listings in red, new listings in kind of this copperish color, and then sold listings are going to be in black. Let me zoom in on my screen just a little bit, make that a little bit easier for you to see. Now I'm zoomed in pretty far, so if I want to look at this and say, well, how many new listings did I have in April of 2020. So I can hover over that price point, new listings, copper color, and then it tells me April 20th, 21 listings, or April of 20, March. And as I'm looking at this and saying, well, new listings and active listings, is it looking at listings that came on during the entire month and were active at any point in time, or is it taking a snapshot? If you want to know how it's making calculations, what is it using to consider an active listing during that time frame? You can click on the question mark. Each of these charts has a question mark. So when I click on the question mark, it tells me active listings. And in this case, the number that it's displaying is a snapshot taken on the 15th of the month. It just looks at the 15th of the month, looks at active listings, and uses that as a snapshot. New listings, sold listings tells you more about that. Or you might come down here and say absorption rate. What is the absorption rate? And you can click on that, and it's going to tell you the absorption rate basically comes down to what is our current inventory and our current rate of sale. If there were no new listings added, how long would it take us to go down to 0? And so that's what the absorption rate is. So it'll tell you that. It'll tell you exactly how that's calculated here as well. So if you have numbers, if you like looking at statistics, that little help bubble is extremely useful to understand exactly what it used to make those calculations. Because maybe you exported a bunch of listings and were running your own stats and say, well, it doesn't look exactly the same. You'll see what's being calculated here and can compare that with what you were doing. Now, the nice thing about these as well, I'm going to illustrate here with listing prices, where I see the active median listing price, the new median listing price, and the sold median sale price. So I see those color-coded here. A lot of these graphs have a wrench on them, and that wrench allows you to change what's being displayed. So if I want to go and compare our median list prices with average, I can do that. Maybe I want to just look at median and average sold price. Close here. Now, I'm not running a class on how to calculate statistics. So if you've got questions, what's the difference between our average, the mean, and the median? Very simple. The average, if I have 3 numbers, I add those 3 numbers up, I divide them by 3, that's our average. The median takes the number that's exactly in the middle. So for example, if I have 1,000 listings here, and most of them are in this 300,000 range, but there were a few in the $1 million range and a few in the $50,000 range. Because it's looking at the numbers exactly in the middle, it kind of kicks out those strange outliers that may be way higher or way lower than most of the other items in the list. So you can always do a Google search for mean, median, and mode, and just take a quick look at what's the difference between those. Again, I'm not going to get into teaching statistics today. What's the difference between the average and the median? Average is the same as mean, essentially, as far as these graphs are concerned. But you can just kind of see how they compare. If you know statistics already, you've had an introductory statistics course, or you remember some of your courses from high school, should be somewhat familiar to you. If not, I do suggest, just take a 5-minute read on Wikipedia, look at the difference between average and median, and come out with that. Now I am going to go back here just to change what I'm displaying here. So this information is really nice to have. It's presented in an easy to see manner, in a manner that is also interactive, where I can come up here or I can scroll down and we can see exact comparisons and exact price points to compare sold pending within the past year. I could email this out. So I could email that report to a contact, or maybe they're not a contact. You can just enter in an email address right there and send it to them. So I could send this report that way by using the email. Print, print, of course, you can print to your printer or save it as a PDF is always an option when you're printing. Either there's my printer here, or save as PDF would allow me to come here. Close that. Advanced, I could export that data, use it in my own spreadsheet. But now let's take a look. We kind of see what this displays, but let's take a look at narrowing it down. Like I said, if you've never come here before, it's showing information that's MLS wide, which maybe I'm in Portland and I don't care about everything happening in other parts of the state. I just want to look at information in Portland. So I can click on Customize and click on New Location. From the location, if you have an overlay, if you've saved a map overlay, you can use this to select any overlays that you've drawn. I could also come in here, start typing in the name of a town. So I'll get, whoops, got to be able to spell it correctly. I'm going to type in Portland. To select it, I just click. If you click once, it won't add. You do need to double click here. Now it'll only let me select one location at a time. So right now, when I rerun the search, it'll only show the information for Portland. Right now, it's displaying information for South Portland. So when I just come here, make sure this is going through the last completed month, click search, and then it's going to show me that information for Portland. Maybe you say, well, I want the information for Bangor. So I could come in here and go Bangor, Maine. Double click. Run that information. Again, it only displays that information for one location at a time. So in order to help you access information that you may want to look at repeatedly, click on Customize, and I can say Previous Locations. And I can see, last time I did Franklin County. I can come in here, change this, December, make sure that runs through December. Go through Franklin County, run that search as well. So I can quickly access any previous locations by going to Customize, Previous Locations. If I want to set any of these as a favorite, I can come in, click the star, and when I click this star, you'll notice it disappear. I'll click the one next to Portland, and it disappeared. Let's do Franklin County. I'll click this one. It disappears. So it says it's been moved to my favorites. And what that means is go to Customize. There's a favorites location right here. So now I can see this probably when I ran this last year. Can change that if I want to rerun any of those. So if I've got locations that I search on frequently, I can come in and just run it that way. So previous locations allows me to use that star to save it as a favorite. Once it's a favorite, it's down under favorite locations. And then it will pull up that information. Now, these graphs, number of listings, listing prices, absorption rate, sale to list price ratio. There is another place where I can get to these graphs. But before I do that, the nice thing about this is maybe I'm putting together a CMA for someone and I trace a neighborhood. So I'm going to do a quick search and I'm just going to close in here. And I'm just going to draw a shape. So maybe I want to define an area that is right here. It's not an MLS defined area. There's no field I can use. So I drew a shape. I'm going to save this shape because maybe I'm going to put together a CMA for somebody. And this is their neighborhood. And I want to show them a little bit of the statistical data of what's gone on in their neighborhood. So I just clicked on the shape and it brings up, it says Polygon Edit. Just click on Edit. I can give that a name and I'm going to call this Stat Overlay Example. You would, of course, name it something more accurate in your description, but for my purposes today, now it's named Stat Overlay Example. I can actually come in here and when I click on Edit, save it to my map overlays. And so maybe I'm just going to add to an existing overlay. I think I've got some neighborhood examples. You could also save it to a brand new overlay. The idea with the overlays, each overlay can have multiple shapes inside the overlay. So now I've got this stat example, and maybe I'm putting like I said, putting together a CMA for Jeff, and his house that he's thinking of listing is located right in the middle of this. So if I go to my market summary report and I go to customize and click new location, I can start typing in that stat overlay example. My map overlays are available here. So now we can take a look at that statistical activity in Jeff's neighborhood. So I can print this off for Jeff, take it to him when we meet, and maybe I'm presenting a CMA for him at the same time. I can just click on search. Now, because I am using an overlay, this will take several minutes to load because what it has to do is it takes my overlay shape and then it compares the mapping location of every single listing in the MLS in this time frame, that past year, and it compares it to our overlay shape. So this does take a little bit of time to load. But I just wanted to show you, rather than just showing you a statistical page, give you an example of how you could make something like this work for you. So not just that you're interested in statistics, but for a specific reason. You're working with a potential client, you're putting together a CMA for them, but you also can run a market summary report for their neighborhood to present that information for them. While this is thinking, I'm going to open up a new tab of Flexmls. So I'll just let that load. Hopefully it doesn't stall out on me. Sometimes when I'm presenting on screen, it takes computing power to present through GoToWebinar. So this can take a little bit longer. But I also mentioned that each of these graphs that I see, I can create a statistical dashboard that displays that information. So I'm going to just show you while this sits and thinks. Hopefully that doesn't stall out. Let's just look. Have I created a stat dashboard already? I've got a couple of them. I'm going to call this 2021 Market Stats. So I'm going to create a new dashboard over on the right by clicking Customize. Scroll down to the bottom half where it says Dashboards, add a new dashboard. And there's a default Market Stats dashboard, but just to show you, I'm going to create a blank one, 2021 Market Stats, create dashboard. So it just takes me to a list of the gadgets that I could put here. And so I'm going to go down to my stat gadgets. The thing that I like about this is I can compare multiple locations at the same time on a dashboard. So I'm going to, for example, put absorption rate 1, and then it'll say add another 2. I'm going to compare 3 locations at once. Sale to list price ratio 1. I'll do 3 on this one as well. So you can add whatever you'd like. And you'll notice these stat gadgets, absorption rate, inventory, sale to list price ratio, prices, volume, sold days on market. Those, this may be stalling on us. Those are going to be the same graphs that I see on our market summary report. So I just created this 2021 market stats. I added 3 absorption rate gadgets and 3 sale to list price ratio gadgets. Let's add 3 inventory gadgets as well. And then I'll click to add my third. And then I can go to my dashboard. Now on the dashboard, since I've got 3 locations, you can customize the layout of your dashboard by going to Customize. Tells me I'm on my 2021 market stats. Second option here, Change Layout. Click on that. And you'll see all of these layouts. I'm going to go to the 3-column layout. And then I can drag and drop to rearrange my gadgets on the page. So we'll do here, absorption rate, sale to list price ratio, inventory. And then all of these are looking MLS wide to begin with. So if I want to change that, settings, and I can say, let's look at Portland. Save. This one, let's go ahead and look at Bangor, Maine. Click on Save. And this one, maybe we'll keep, this is the entire MLS. It's not looking at any location in particular. It's just showing me residential in Portland, residential in Bangor, and comparing it to the entire MLS. So I can see at a quick glance how that compares. And then I could do the same thing. If I wanted this entire column to be dedicated to Portland, go into settings, make sure to change each of these and point them toward the appropriate location. And then I would do that for each column of information here as well. I just want to see if that one, okay, it did finally compile for my overlay, my stat overlay example. It gives me the name of my overlay. So this is just the activity in that very small area that I drew because I was working with Jeff, remember in our example, and I'm going to present a CMA. And I just kind of wanted to show him number of listings in that location over the past year, listing prices, absorption rate, sale to list price ratio, days on market, price volume. So Jeff can get an idea of, well, what's the market activity been like in that immediate vicinity of his potential property that he's thinking of listing with me. So really nice to be able to print this or email that directly for Jeff. I'm going to come in next and we'll move away from our market summary report and our market stats dashboard. Before I move from that, one thing to point out on the market stats dashboard is on the market summary report, I have the ability to print this, email it, or export the data. Dashboards are not designed to email, print, or share really. So this will, there's no print option here. There's no email option. I couldn't email this dashboard to somebody else. So there's no option here. Now, of course, if you want to take a screenshot and copy and paste that screenshot into a document, you could, of course, do something like that. But the dashboard itself is meant to be just for your own use. The market summary report is really meant to be something that can be shared. Now I'm going to move from here and we'll go from the market summary report to our dashboard. Whoops. Custom dashboard, we just covered that. Let's look at the My Market report. Now, I don't think this report is quite as clean. It provides very good information, but to me, just a quick snapshot of market summary conditions. This is easy. Once I take a look at it, I read the key beneath this: active, new, sold listings, active median list price, new median list price, sold median price. Very easy for me to see what's going on here. It doesn't take much for me to try to figure out what's going on. Now, the My Market report, it's not any more difficult, but just to me, the way I look at things visually, it looks a little bit more complex, and you'll see that here as we look at it here. So I'm going to go back into Flexmls and go to my menu, and under that statistics section, my market. I'll just put that on as a favorite today too. So as a record of what we're talking about right now, my market. There are 5 report types here. So if I go back to this slide, inventory sold, it should be days on market. I was just using this slide for a different MLS that uses days in market, or days in MLS rather than days on market. Sold, days on market versus sold price, volume and average price, hot sheet, price change trends. This one I really like, the price change trends. So the My Market report, you'll see it remembers what I used the last time I was here. And I demonstrated this back in 2019. So it's giving me a My Market report, but it's going through 2019. That's not useful to us. So I will want to go up to customize. If I've created a saved search, I could use that. But if I just click on quick search, I can come here and just say, let's use residential template. If I want to include everything, I don't need to make any specific selections here, but maybe I want to only include single family or condos or everything except manufactured. Same thing as I go down here. I'm not going to, I could do listing member, listing office. You'll notice these are just the fields that are on our regular quick search template. But I'm just going to skip status. I'm just going to select maybe property types, maybe not even that. And click on next. And then it's automatically going to pull in the past 2 years worth of activity. So you'll see it going from January of 2019 through the last completed month, December of 2020. So I could run it through January of 2021 after this month closes out. But it pulls in 2 years worth of activity by default. And it will tell you if you've put in any search criteria on the previous page, what that is here. Again, for that search criteria, you don't have to select statuses because the report will take care of pulling all that status information itself. So I'll just select my time frame. Like I said, it defaults to the past 2 years, and click on search. And now it'll take just a moment for that to run for us. So I'll let that compile here. And while that's thinking, this inventory report, there we go, tells me that we're comparing active, sold, and new listings for inventory. And I see each of these lines in the key below this, active listings in red, new listings in gold or copperish, and sold listings here. And then months of inventory. How many months of inventory would we have if sales were to stop at our current rate of sale? So I get this actual bar for months of inventory. And if I hover over that bar, it tells me what that is, 8.25 months of inventory back in February of 19. Compare that of February of 2020 and 6.47 months of inventory. So less inventory last year than 2 years ago. But I can easily see these price change trends for number of active listings that we have. Here, not a lot of active listings currently. Sold listings still selling quite high here. So our sales, of course, earlier last year, we would expect them to dip here, but they've climbed back up and are staying pretty steady through December. And then new listings. Not a lot of new listings going on, which is not surprising looking at the number of our active here. And of course, months inventory is going to be a little bit lower here. And then it gives me the actual table beneath that, so I could come in and compare month to month, active listings, new listings, sold listings. I can get that information by hovering over those points or just coming to the table underneath. So nice visual breakdown, but because each of these charts is going to have not only lines, but bars as well, it gets a little bit more complex as you're looking at these. So it's important to pay attention to the labels on the side axis, on the bottom axis, the key at the bottom, and of course the name of what's up here. In addition to that, we've got our search parameters displayed at the top as well. So just a little bit more complex visually when you're looking at this, but again, a really nice visual breakdown of inventory. And if I move to another one of these, for example, sold days on market versus units. So I'm going to see the number of sold units with this black line that's coming through here, and I can see the days on market for the past 2 years here. So still have that same climb right here, so number of sold units, selling fast, not a lot of days on market here, average 53, 54, 59. And you can kind of see how the price changes. This is pretty consistent, and it is for most MLSs here, so you can visually see that breakdown for days on market and number of units being sold during that time frame, and of course the actual table down beneath that. And again, our search parameters at the top. Pay attention to the label of your X and Y axis, Y on the side, X on the bottom for dates. I can see sold days on market versus sold price. And again, that's going to show me the average sale price here on this black line, and then compare that to the days on market. So before we were looking at number of units being sold, and this is comparing the actual price being sold. So we can see that 80 days, 100 days, 90 days, 50 days, 40 days on market. Days on market on the left, price over here on the right, and then comparing those, seeing how those stack up. Again, like I said, useful information, but just a little bit busier as far as the density of information that's contained on this. Now, one thing that I'll also note is that there is no help button that'll tell you exactly how the calculations are being made on this particular stat report as well. I can click on help for the page, and it will give me a nice breakdown of what's included on each of those reports. And that I just click on help with this page, all in the upper right, top right of the screen. Couple other quick ones, volume and average price. So it'll give me my sold volume with the purple bars, average list price in gray, average sold price, and look how closely those track each other. People are pricing things obviously very appropriately because there's not a huge gap between our list price and our actual sold price. And then of course, broken down beneath that as well in the chart. Lastly, the hot sheet price change trends. This basically is like looking at a hot sheet and seeing what are the price change trends. Is it dropping? Dropping by how much? So this lets me see that very readily, where I can see the price change percentage with the kind of lime or mint green bar, and the average price change, the actual number changed right here. So that number will tell me minus 31,000. So that's the average coming through here. And what percentage is that? Minus 6%, minus 7%, minus 7%. So it just lets you see what's the price change trend when things are changing price, and you see that on a hot sheet, and you see, oh, there's price changes. What's the average drop in those price changes? So just nice price change trend right here. Now, of course, these screens, even though it doesn't have the little help icon right here that tells you exactly how the calculations are made, it is very user-friendly to email this to somebody in the upper right, print it off, save it as a PDF, put it in as part of a presentation, or I can go down to advanced and export that data to use in my own spreadsheets as well. Now, with that, those were the 3 areas that I had wanted to cover today. We went through a few different ways to look at your listings and my production, search results and summary statistics under inventory and production. We went through the market summary report, how to customize that, save favorite locations, or even recreate some of those reports as gadgets. We created our own custom dashboard for market stats and had our absorption rate, sale to list price ratio, inventory. The advantage here is that I can point each gadget toward a different location, which makes easy comparisons. And then lastly, we looked at the My Market report just to give you a little bit of information on what's changing in your market. Now, remember, when you run the My Market report, you have 5 different options to view, and you will want to go in. It'll pull the information that you used last time, and you saw that when I came in, it was pulling through 2019. So run that for the past 2 years, but make sure to go to Customize and just set your search criteria. Set the time frame, make sure this goes through the last completed month, and click on Search and pull the information when you're running that report. With that, I know that's a lot of information to cover in just 60 minutes. I want to thank everyone for attending today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.